Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch and to our last programme of 2024, but also the last with me as host after 11.5 years. Tonight I'm going to look back on that time, which I have to say has been a pleasure, a privilege and a lot of fun. And of course, everyone has loved it.
Now the ABC and Media Watch. Yes, I know, that lefty propaganda outfit again.
Utter disgrace. Media Watch host Paul Barry cannot be allowed to get away with this.
What's more, everyone has been happy to embrace our criticism so they can do better in future.
Just maybe Media Watch will be inclined to apologise. However, given the host of this 15-minute program has his head stuck so far up his own backside he doesn't require medical attention for a rectal examination, I don't think it'll be forthcoming.
Classy stuff. But when you present Media Watch, you're guaranteed to make new enemies and lose old friends. And as some may remember, I first started doing that in 2000 when I hosted the show for a year, and it did not end well. Jonathan Shire had been headhunted from Baltic broadcaster TV3 to be the ABC's new managing director, with strong support from the Howard government to bring the ABC to heel. And he was a disaster, fattening management, cutting programmes and creating fear and confusion, with the media agreeing.
It's Shire madness. ABC vision more like a nightmare.
The poor bloke knows zero about public broadcasting and in all probability should never have been appointed.
So I decided to devote an episode of Media Watch to that criticism and to interview ABC chairman Donald McDonald, whose board had picked Jonathan Shire for the top job. And I asked him if he was regretting his choice.
It seems to me, at least at the PR level, it's been something of a disaster, this appointment.
Well, this is an appointment that it's in its first year, where changes are called for, changes are being carried through. Changes disturb people, one understands that. But that's the phase we're in, and we will see it through.
But you appointed him?
Indeed. The board did, yes.
Are you still happy with him?
Absolutely.
People told me I was brave. People told me I was stupid. People told me I would be sacked. And I was. Well, my contract was not renewed, thus proving that an independent Media Watch is never guaranteed. But ABC staff went out on strike for 24 hours. Media Watch was boycotted and went to black. And not long afterwards, Jonathan Shire was shown the door. Whereupon, Media Watch returned after a year, independent once more, with David Marr as host.
Hello, and welcome to Media Watch, back from the dead. I'm David Marr.
So, what was the media landscape like 24 years ago? Well, newspapers still reigned supreme, but the internet was already stealing ads and readers, and a bigger threat was just around the corner, which would turn this sort of fluff into news.
Unlikely friendship that captured the hearts of the nation. This is a lovely story. Yes. But when Molly the magpie was taken away from his Gold Coast family and best friend Peggy, it made international news.
Can you believe it? Back in 2000, there was no social media. Just imagine. No Facebook, no YouTube, no Reddit, no Twitter, no WhatsApp, no Instagram and no TikTok, which didn't hit our shores till 2017. And which has given the media gold like this.
Millions shocked after discovering the correct way to open a bag of lollies.
I had no idea.
You've been using colanders wrong.
The TikTok kitchen hack dividing users.
And until 2008, no one had iPhones or walked along the street glued to their screens. Today, nearly 2/3 of Australian adults get their news on mobile phones, and increasingly it is via social media apps, which is why the new media moguls look like this.
USA! 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 Why?
And while newspapers are still going, fewer and fewer people buy or read them. According to media analyst Steve Allen, newspaper circulation for the big city titles has fallen by 61% since 2000, while total advertising revenue has dropped by an incredible 91%. And around half the jobs in journalism, at least 11,000, have been lost, including many subs and fact-checkers, which is why we get shockers like this from Channel 10 about the death of George Nebus, which should be Negus. Although this classic front page in the Fin Review 10 years ago was blamed on someone pushing the wrong button.
Joe Hockey headline TK here.
3 lines to come here.
Arms build up.
World is fucked.
Meanwhile, regional papers, which once made huge amounts of money, have been mostly sold, shut down or diminished. And the mainstream media has migrated online, where Google and Meta hog 60% of advertising and competition for eyeballs is cutthroat. So, how has it changed our diet? Well, there's still plenty of terrific journalism around, but more and more, hard news has been swamped by free online shit like this.
Shock new research reveals some beards contain more poo than a toilet.
Feces on the face. What's hiding in your beard?
Sites like the Daily Mail, which launched in Australia 10 years ago, and news.com.au are full of this sort of clickbait, often ripped straight from social media or from rival outlets, with stories like...
Cancer-stricken Kate's moving words.
Revealed by an expert lip reader.
And...
Margot Robbie shows off her midriff in a crop top.
Yes, that is news. And both sites are obsessed with celebrity, with endless stories on the Kardashians, Prince Harry, and nasty takedowns about Meghan.
Psycho demon.
Bombshell dooms Meghan.
Or maximising clicks with stories about women and their looks.
Sam Armitage's giant granny panties show a visible line.
But even the ABC, in its search for relevance, has got in on the clickbait act.
Penises come in all shapes and sizes. Here's the science behind some of the animal kingdom's weirdest.
Another hot topic that fills more and more column inches is real estate, with the Nine and News Corp papers awash with endless stories about properties most of us can't afford. And why so much interest? Well, readers love to know how much theirs and their neighbour's house is worth. But more because Nine and News Corp have real estate websites, domain and realestate.com.au, that make millions of dollars in profits. So the papers promote them relentlessly, even with bad taste stories like this.
Easy street murders.
How much is the Collingwood house worth now?
In TV, audiences have also shrunk dramatically as kids watch YouTube on their phones and parents stream shows on Netflix. So, programmes that Media Watch once mined for stories no longer produce gold for us or the networks. Back in 2000, 7's Today Tonight and 9's The Current Affair were pulling in between 1.2 and 1.7 million viewers a night, fighting each other with stings on dole bludgers, neighbours from hell, and chasing their victims down the street.
Joey, you're supposed to be blind! Joey, you're supposed to be blind, mate!
Today, ACCA's audience is half that, and TT is dead, so we can no longer poke fun at their copycat rivalry, as I did when I filled in for Jonathan Holmes in 2010.
Over 4 weeks to mid-September, TT and ACA ran the same stories on the same night no less than 16 times. And let me tell you, we are not talking hot news.
Hello, I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to A Current Affair. Tonight, why salt therapy is providing relief for practically everything.
See what I mean? Salt therapy. Meanwhile, over on TT, they were claiming to have the exclusive salt scoop.
It looks like a palatial beauty salon, but it's a salt room.
And as viewers have deserted free-to-air TV, so have the advertisers, with commercial networks losing more than half their revenue in real terms since 2006, leaving them searching for new ways to pay the bills, which is why every move in cricket or footy is now sold and branded.
Watch this on the Harvey Norman replay. Here we go, free hit. As we have a look at our Isuzu D-Max halftime highlights.
And news programmes are now also full of product promotion, especially for cruises, with glossy footage supplied by the cruise line, plus free travel and perks for the crew and reporter.
Fresh in the water, the Sun Princess is the largest and now flagship of the fleet. They're calling this the next generation love boat.
I like it.
Free flights up the pointy end have also persuaded TV and print reporters that Qantas can make news whenever it wants.
You know what? This junket business, it's a tough job and someone has to do it. On behalf of all of us freeloaders who've come along for the ride, thanks so much for having us.
It's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And you look great in those pyjamas, really do.
They call this the Qantas Kool-Aid. And we're drinking it.
Meanwhile, TV producers have found ways to get junk food into reality TV shows like 10 Survivor.
That's right. KFC are bringing the party with all the chicken and chips you can eat. That smells good.
Smell it.
And 7 News has managed to slip a Macca's ad into its nightly bulletin.
We'll catch up with our resident racing expert. Sorry about this, guys. Kind of in the middle of something, mate. What's going on, Simon?
Did you want a McCafe, caramel, hazelnut or vanilla iced coffee?
I'll take a caramel one, thanks for that.
Meanwhile, 9 has slipped ads into the Today Show, getting the weatherman to spruik McChicken and cutting to the studio to find you-know-who tucking into you-know-what.
I just won you back. It's as easy as that, I tell you. Chicken parmy.
Oh, really emotional. Is there anything that commercial TV won't sell its soul for? Certainly not at Sky, which has produced gushing 30-minute advertorials for Santos and Woodside, hosted by its finance correspondent, Ross Greenwood.
The story of Woodside begins here in Victoria in the 1950s.
We went from this scrappy little explorer to the big company that we are today.
The one thing that hasn't changed in 7 decades is the demand for reliable, affordable energy and the Aussie grit and determination to deliver it.
Whatever happened to journalistic integrity, I hear you ask? Seems it is no longer an issue. Sky News, of course, was around in 2000 when I first hosted Media Watch. But since News Corp took full control in 2016, it has become more and more like America's Fox News, with a primetime lineup of right-wing barkers bashing Labor.
Honestly, the incompetence, the incoherence of this government.
Demonising migrants and asylum seekers.
Competing for jobs, competing for housing, and changing the very nature and culture of the country.
And denying science with a relentless campaign to hold back action on climate change, which, in my view, is the media's worst crime during my time in the job, and which reached a climax during the terrible bushfires of 2020.
So let me deal with the issue head on. Does climate change cause these fires? No.
So that's the key, the drought. And if the drought can't be blamed on climate change, you can't blame the fires on climate change, especially when so many are deliberately lit.
What's burning in Victoria? Eucalypts. What's burning in South Australia are eucalypts. When are we going to wake up and stop using this as an excuse to justify the climate change hoax?
And in 2022, when floods hit the East Coast almost as hard, Sky's After Darkers were added again.
This isn't new. We've always had them. We will always have them.
But we do nothing. We do nothing. Act like these floods, these fires are new, Chris. They have always been synonymous with living in Australia.
And Sky's Rowan Dean, the channel's biggest clown, joined Miranda Devine in the telly and sunk even lower by blaming London's terrible Grenfell fire, in which 72 people died, on climate change alarmism.
There's no other rational explanation for why this building went up like a tinderbox, like a Roman can.
That was totally wrong and a complete fabrication, as the official inquiry into the fire has since confirmed. But Sky's shock jocks didn't just downplay or ignore climate science, they also targeted climate scientists with personal attacks.
Let's be clear, this is not science, but advocacy dressed up as science. And just because someone has professor in his title doesn't mean he's not pushing a barrow.
And to the delight of its readers, the Australian campaigned almost as hard, ridiculing climate catastrophists.
More people being inundated, more floods, droughts, you know, the normal catastrophic stuff.
Accusing scientists of exaggerating the state of the Great Barrier Reef and suggesting back in 2015 that the world was facing a coming ice age, to offer just 3 examples from scores of stories. Even as the News Corp tabloids proclaimed they had joined the Green Revolution with a 16-page wraparound.
Yep, you heard that right.
How the world's racing to save the planet.
Vic power plant worker backs change from coal.
How much solar panels will save you?
Getting Australia to a net zero future.
Whatever happened to that? It didn't last long. Meanwhile, those same tabloids swung around every 3 years to do their best to keep Labor out of power, with appalling front pages like these in the 2013 election.
I know nothing.
Send in the clown. Keep this mob out.
While in 2019, News Corp's target was Bill Shorten,
the great
divider.
And in 2022, they were attacking Anthony Albanese.
Amateur Albo.
Oh no, Albo fails again.
With, you have to admit, a much kinder take on the coalition leader, who went on to suffer a thumping loss.
ScoMo's home punt.
As journalist and academic Margaret Simons observed at the end of the campaign,
Some of the content in News Corporation tabloids has read like political advertising for the coalition.
It sure has, and it still does. But female politicians have been hit even harder, and more often than the blokes. And none more than Julia Gillard, by Alan Jones in particular, as I noted when I started my current stint at Media Watch in 2013.
Well, I'm sorry. Julia Gillard has reached the end of the road. She's either ill with envy, jealousy, anger and humiliation, or she's a seriously evil woman.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch, with a new set, new titles, and of course, a new host. But sadly, some things never change, like the abuse we hurl at our political leaders. Clown, dope, psychopath, liar, idiot, and just plain evil are a few of the terms the media has favoured. And of course, that witch.
Julia Gillard faced unprecedented serial abuse, much of it driven by the media. But other women in public life were also targeted, like Gillian Triggs of the Human Rights Commission.
Time up for Triggs as Turnbull slams indefensible use of 18C.
Triggs would turn your kids into informers.
And so were women who dared to speak up, like Yasmin Abdel-Magid, who was another of News Corp's punching bags.
Two-finger salute. ABC hosts ultimate insult to Anzac legend.
An Australian Broadcasting Corporation backs activist who demeans our war heroes.
And good old auntie was also attacked by an army of Sky After Darkers and columnist after columnist at The Australian, again to the delight of its readers. But we have to admit, we've also had a go at the ABC ourselves along the way, and deservedly so. Taking aim at some of its biggest productions, like Exposed, which pointed the finger at former New South Wales Premier Neville Wran over the Luna Park fire, in which 7 people died.
What do you think caused this fire?
Arson. It's arson.
Arson, yeah.
The cover-up was monumental.
There is somebody that got away with murder. It's time for the truth.
Exposed.
We also unravelled the ABC podcast and TV series about the unsolved murder of Juanita Nielsen.
Crooked cops and one big cover-up.
Startling new evidence.
I know exactly where she was killed, who killed her, and who paid him.
The ABC took down that series after we revealed the key talent, John Innes, to be a fantasist.
In fact, can you believe his story? In my view, the answer is no, and New South Wales Police agree.
And we raised doubts about whether the ABC had the goods on Heston Russell in suggesting he was guilty of war crimes. The federal court decided it didn't and awarded Russell $390,000 in damages in a case that's cost the ABC around $2.8 million. But trips to the canteen became really uncomfortable when we criticised the ABC's coverage, or lack of coverage, of the debate over transgender medicine and puberty blockers, and asked if the public broadcaster should be so close to the AIDS Council of New South Wales. The problem here is a media group partnering with and being rewarded by a lobby group, any lobby group, and how that can lead to perceptions of bias in coverage or to bias itself. We think the ABC should review the arrangement. It is still in place. Over the years I've hosted Media Watch, several executives at the ABC have wanted me sacked, but they left and I survived, as did the programme. And I need to thank the ABC for that. It is remarkable that any broadcaster tolerates a programme that rips into it as we have done. And 2 people in particular deserve the credit. Mark Scott, who was Managing Director from 2006 to 2016, and David Anderson, who's been Managing Director since 2019. They have always had my back and defended Media Watch's right to criticise, even if they didn't agree with its criticisms. So, thank you to both. Thank you also to my partner in crime, executive producer Tim Latham, who has been wonderful to work with, has been here almost as long as I have, and is also moving on. And thanks to all the people who've put this programme to air, week after week, year after year. They're friends I have made, not lost, and it really has been a team effort. Next year, Linton Besser will be in the chair. I wish him the very best of luck, and I hope you will join him. And we'll leave you with a taste of our final show, The Best of Media Bites, all 413 episodes, which will be out on social media later this week. Bites will not be back next year, which is sad, because making them was a lot of fun. Sorry, mate, you've got to go. It's the cuts, you see, nothing personal. Come on, off you go. Out. That's it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye from me and the team.